Did President Biden and Speaker Kevin McCarthy reach a deal, a private deal? Well, some are speculating that they just made a deal with the devil. Now, who am I talking about? Who am I referring to? And how could this potentially impact you? Well, make sure you follow along, watch this entire video, because I'll explain exactly what is going on here. But first, all I ask is if you enjoy these daily updates, do me a favor, it takes just 2 seconds, go ahead and hit that like button. But let's get right down to it. First off, what you need to understand is that President Biden may have just agreed to spending cuts, new funding for Ukraine, and additional stimulus to the American people. And I know you're probably thinking, well, is this actually true? Could we see all this stuff? And the answer is yes. And I want to explain why this is now coming up just 2 days after the government funding deal. So, again, make sure you stick around for this entire video. But let me show you this. So there's multiple articles swirling around the internet right now that are saying that Congress is wondering if President Biden and Speaker Kevin McCarthy cut a secret deal for Ukraine. Well, let's address that. Now we'll talk about this specific article in just a second. But a lot of people are speculating about this because of what President Biden just said today. Because again, on November 17th, which is actually in 43 days, we are going to need a new government funding bill to keep the government open. Well, in the past week or so, well, essentially really in the past 4 days, President Biden was very confident that Congress would come together and come through to pass a government funding bill, which obviously they did. Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he was adamant that Republicans would only support a bill that contained spending cuts, stricter border policies, and no additional funding for Ukraine. Well, spending cuts were out, stricter border policies were out, and additional funding for Ukraine gone as well. Okay? Now, this is what is so shocking. Speaker Kevin McCarthy put a Democratic bill on the floor of the House, and it passed with the majority of Democratic support, not Republican support. So essentially, did President Biden and Speaker Kevin McCarthy put together somewhat of a backroom deal? Well, let's look into this, because what President Biden said was actually pretty clear. President Biden said just today, because President Biden was asked, can he trust Speaker Kevin McCarthy when the next deal comes around, which would be by November 17th. President Biden said this: "We just made one about Ukraine, so we'll find out." That is what is bringing up a lot of speculation and some confusion. Did President Biden and Speaker Kevin McCarthy put together a plan to offer or pretty much propose some funding for Ukraine in the future? The answer is possibly yes, they did. And now Congress is speculating that they made this deal for multiple reasons. Okay? Now, however, it is going to give Democrats some of what they want. It's going to give more of what Democrats want than Republicans, but it will give Republicans some of their agenda as well. Because in exchange for this, okay, what we are now hearing is that President Biden may be tasked with getting Democrats on board for not ousting Speaker Kevin McCarthy if Republicans come calling for his speakership. Okay? But get this. If this was the deal that was made, and that's what many people are speculating at this time, because again, if you ask Republicans, Speaker Kevin McCarthy made a deal with the devil. But when you ask Democrats, President Biden may have just made a deal with the devil. That's a problem. So here's what they are considering. And again, there's some speculation here, but also backed by many statements, a lot of facts. The deal that could be put together could contain spending cuts, which is a Republican priority. So we are going to see spending cuts. Now, is it going to be across the board? Is it going to be to specific agencies and programs? We don't know. We're going to find that out soon. The deal could also include funding for Ukraine. What is the number one agenda right now for Democrats? Well, they don't want to, offer any type of spending cut, but at the same time, we need to ensure that there's money going to Ukraine. That's what they're saying. So, Speaker Kevin McCarthy may have said, all right, we will give you some additional funding for Ukraine. Maybe $6 billion, maybe $15 billion, maybe $23 billion. We don't know. But in exchange for that, in exchange for putting that bill on the floor of the House, what I need from you is I need you to agree to spending cuts. Again, we don't know exactly how much would go to Ukraine. We also don't know how much would be for spending cuts. But the question really is, will they offset? Will the spending cuts, let's say they're $23 billion, is that what Ukraine will get? Or will it be about 50%? That's what many lawmakers are talking about today. The next thing, probably one of the biggest things, is what some are talking about is Speaker Kevin McCarthy may have privately went to President Biden and said, I will put your bill on the floor. I will get this passed through the House. But once this happens, what is going to happen is Republicans, specifically Matt Gaetz, is going to come for my speakership. So what I need from you is to get Democrats on board and protect me as the speaker. That is likely what happened. Again, more speculation, but it's speculation backed by interviews, statements, and some facts. So this is why many are wondering, especially within Congress, did President Biden and Speaker McCarthy cut a secret Ukraine funding deal? Well, we're going to find out in the very near future. But I just wanted to explain what's going on there because, again, President Biden agreed that, yes, Ukraine funding is needed. But at the same time, funding for the U.S. government to stay open is needed. Same time, we need Congress to pass bipartisan bills. How do they do that unless they both have part of their agenda in that bill? So again, the crazy part about all this is we have 43 days to get a deal done before Congress could potentially shut down. So, just wanted to fill you in on that. Also want to fill you in on more stimulus for the American people. What is actually happening here? Because I know a lot of people ask me, and I created hundreds of videos on stimulus over the past 3 years, but stimulus has pretty much died down. There's not a lot of new stimulus coming, especially from the federal government. But there's another form of stimulus that could be coming very soon, and it's actually having to do with student loan forgiveness. Because the Biden administration announced last week, before a potential government shutdown, that they were working to provide some additional relief. Okay? What they were working to provide was additional forgiveness for those that are highly unlikely to pay the loans back, especially in a reasonable amount of time. Which means they could have an exorbitant amount of student debt. They could have, they've been holding on to this debt for maybe, a decade or two, right? Those are the people that they want to protect. So what they're also discussing, and this is where many experts are stepping in over the past few days, is these experts are now telling us that what President Biden did and offering a 1-year on-ramp to loan repayments, that was likely a stepping stone to this exact forgiveness plan, where they are saying if you are unlikely to repay your student loans, for example, like the student loan pause ended, the student loan payment pause ended on October 1st, which means student loan borrowers need to start making their payments. If they don't make a payment for, let's say, 6 or 8 months, it doesn't show on their credit, but it shows that they're unlikely to repay their loan. And so now those people could be put into the system. But what they're saying is this, is that the people that would qualify for this forgiveness are those that likely have substantial student loans due to just an exponential balance growth as a result of interest. Okay. There's also borrowers with very old student loans. Again, people with loans for maybe a decade or two. People who didn't get enough financial value from their education to make the loan payment. For example, maybe you went into into the arts and you were just into drawing and painting and dancing and music and all this stuff, and now you just don't make enough money, guess what? You could actually be part of the student loan forgiveness plan. Yeah. And then here's the next one. That's the big one that they threw in. And those people that are experiencing any financial hardship. Any financial hardship. Okay? That could mean you just bought a house and now you're a little strapped for cash. Yeah, that would be a financial hardship. Oh, you just had a death in the family. You just had a child. 2 more financial hardships. You lost your job. Well, that's a financial hardship. You lost hours. You got a pay cut. Again, all financial hardships. These are the things that the Biden administration is now putting into place. And again, they're not going for the home run. What the Biden administration looks like they're doing to me is they're going for these small little single base hits. Okay? A little sports analogy, but they're trying to just get there one step at a time. Okay? They're not trying to climb the mountain in one jump. Just one step at a time is what they're trying to do. Okay? Just chip away at the student loan debt. And eventually, Republicans are going to be like, well, pretty much all paid off. Might as well just do the rest. And there you go. So again, experts are saying that expect more for student loan forgiveness, especially over the next 12 months. That is their anticipation. So again, that's what we know at this time. As always, as I know more, I promise, I'll come back on and share all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing. I'll see you guys on the next one.